It's time to update our Dynasty Cornerstone rankings with the 2024 rookies now that we have the landing spots. So let's start in the S tier. This is the last time Justin Jefferson will be in the S tier because he's turning 25 in June. And again, this is players under 25.
Don't ask where CD is.
CD is 25, right? Jalen Waddle is 25. So they're not on this list. But Justin Jefferson, there's nothing else that needs to be said about Justin Jefferson, I don't think, other than that he is the best wide receiver in the NFL. Him and Tyreek Hill. He's the youngest of the two, so naturally he is the top of our Cornerstone rankings. And there is no wide receiver, running back, or tight end on this list that I would take over Justin Jefferson. So he's in a tier of his own at the top. And then the two guys below him are guys that are the next tier of elite wide receivers, the elite wide receivers in Dynasty.
Yeah, these are Amon-Ra and Jamar Chase. In the same tier, the A tier, sometimes we see Amon-Ra go over Chase. Sometimes we see Chase go over Amon-Ra. And honestly, it's going to be the gap is going to be a lot closer with the new contract that Amon-Ra just got about a week or two ago. Is he officially the highest paid wide receiver in the NFL right now? I'm sure that'll change once CD and Chase and J-Jeff get their deals. But anyways, the contract installation is amazing. The consistent target share that Amon-Ra gets in the Lions offense is incredible. He is so reliable, and he'll win you a league. Same with Jamar Chase. I mean, Jamar Chase's upside is arguably the highest of any receiver in the NFL, not named Tyreek Hill.
Absolutely.
Like, he has technically, I mean, debatably, he has higher upside than J-Jeff. He has higher upside than CeeDee Lamb, and CeeDee Lamb was the wide receiver one last year. Like, his game-to-game ability to put up potentially 50 points is unreal, unbelievable. He's absolutely deserving of being in this tier and being a top 4 consistently Dynasty wide receivers. So, obviously, there are some legitimate questions with Amon-Ra and Jamar Chase, which is why they're not in the S tier with Justin Jefferson, but it's not a knock against them. It's just the reality of Justin Jefferson being the best wide receiver in the NFL.
And we'll move down to the B tier here, and we'll have our first 2024 rookie in Marvin Harrison Jr. For Marv, it's pretty much the dream landing spot. I mean, he's going to play with Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray, who is capable of supporting positional ones in his offense, whether that's a tight end one, which I think he will do with McBride, a wide receiver one, which I think Marvin Harrison Jr., as early as this season, has wide receiver one upside in the NFL. He's a guy who is very, very polished. He's going to come in and he's going to be the starting X receiver for the Cardinals. I think he'll work well in that offense. I think Kyler's going to throw to him a ton, and I think he's going to do very well right away in the NFL. So he's going to be here in the B tier with Bijan. Bijan now, coming off of last year where everybody thought, okay, Bijan's going to come in the NFL and score 100 points per game because everybody was, drafting him that high. And as it turns out, he didn't for a couple of reasons. A, Arthur Smith, and B, Arthur Smith. So now,
is there a C selection in there?
If there was a C, I would say Arthur Smith is C.
That's fair.
Like you can't forget that one. So RB9 last year, which was a good year for a rookie. Again, he only had 4 touchdowns on the ground. He had 4 receiving touchdowns as well. Had 86 targets, but only had 214 rushing attempts. So it's from a volume perspective, what they needed to do is get a coach in there that's going to give Bijan the ball consistently, and that's exactly what they did. I mean, Raheem Morris, he's not screwing around. The Falcons maybe...
Well, they decided to screw around.
I was going to say, the Falcons may be screwing around.
Morris did have a part in.
But with Bijan, I think Bijan is primed to get more work this year. I think he's going to even get better now that he's been in the NFL 1 year. And so he is the best running back in Dynasty Fantasy Football, in our opinion. We have flipped him and Gibbs because of Bijan's new situation. And being able to play with Kirk Cousins makes a big difference. They have a capable passing game in Atlanta now. And then Puka Nacua. And the Puka Nacua... I mean, a lot of people will say this is high for him. I do not think this is high for him. You're talking about the best rookie wide receiver of all time. Came out last year, completely dominated, is going into just a little bit better of a situation because, I mean, that situation did not get worse from an offensive standpoint. So going into this situation again, he was the wide receiver 4 last year in PPR leagues. In his first, he was a top 12 Dynasty producing asset in his first year in the NFL. A dude who absolutely was slaughtering secondaries. And I think... I honestly don't know. I don't know why more people don't rank him as aggressively as us, but he deserves to be here. He absolutely deserves to be here. If Marv does next year what Puka did this year, we're going to be thrilled.
The wide receiver 1 in Dynasty.
Right? So with Puka, I think Puka's a good value right now, but Puka deserves this. Puka is the real deal. He's legit, and we're acknowledging that.
Yeah, and at the top of the C tier, we're going to have our second running back off the board in Jahmyr Gibbs. And I just love how the turns have tabled so quickly over the last couple of years. I mean, you're looking a couple of years ago, Cornerstone rankings like this, you already had 5 running backs off the board, at least, with a couple in the S tier. And that's just not the case anymore. Your second best running back is Jahmyr Gibbs. In Dynasty, some people have him as a running back 1, running back 3, same tier, doesn't really matter. But Gibbs and Brees will be in this tier along with Garrett Wilson, Neighbors, Laporta, Brees, and then London. So with Gibbs, the reason he's a tier below Bijan and kind of what we've landed on is that at the end of the day, he is splitting carries with David Montgomery. And that does have an impact on his potential ceiling of production. Not that it can't be super high and super elite, but when you're looking at the upside of Bijan compared to Gibbs, there is a little bit of a step down there. And then we will have Garrett Wilson in this tier as well. There's an argument to have Garrett Wilson in the B tier with Marvin and with Puka. I absolutely understand that. But when you're looking at Garrett Wilson's price, you are seeing him consistently go towards the tail end of the second round there. And with the situation there's just a lot more long-term questions. Rodgers coming off a torn Achilles. The Jets as an organization and as a whole, how competent really are they? Yeah, he's been transcending situation with garbage quarterback play, but that's really just all the more reason to have him this high in the C tier. It's been so impressive what he's done with such little help there. I'm very interested to see what Garrett Wilson does this year and see how much Malachi Corley could potentially open up the field for him. Malik Neighbors. We're gonna be is this bold to have Malik Neighbors in this tier? I don't think it is because of the caliber of a prospect that he is. And even though he's going into a garbage situation like the Giants, how garbage is it from an opportunity standpoint? It's actually not garbage at all.
But even better, how garbage is it from a year from now?
When they draft a quarterback.
When we're playing Dynasty in what, 3-year windows, right?
Exactly.
That's the point.
And with Neighbors having the capability of being an outside receiver, being a slot receiver, he doesn't have to be exclusively either. He can do both. But honestly, maybe it'll benefit the Giants for Neighbors to be an exclusive slot wide receiver to, kind of hold Daniel Jones's hand as a passer. And what does that mean for Neighbors? It means more targets. Mm-hmm. It means more opportunity. It means more volume. And in PPR leagues, that's invaluable. He could be very productive this year right out the gate.
He could. I mean, depending on how much they throw the ball, he could have 140 targets this year. Legit could.
Yes.
There's nobody else there.
There's no one there.
Yeah.
Sam Laporta is also going to be in this tier. We are notably higher on Sam Laporta than a lot of people just from a dynasty value perspective. It is totally merited, totally accepted across the board that Sam Laporta is the Dynasty tight end 1. It's just in startup terms, where is he going? We've seen him fall as far as the mid to late 3rd round, even in tight end premium formats. We think Sam Laporta in tight end premium formats specifically is worthy of going at the end of the 2nd round in your startups.
Yeah.
He really should be, and that's not where he's going. We think he belongs in this tier with Wilson, with Gibbs, with Neighbors, because you are seriously getting a leg up on your league mates when you have the Dynasty tight end 1, a hyper-productive tight end like Sam Laporta, who commanded a ridiculous amount of targets as a rookie. Like, we're assuming that last year, based on his price, we're basically assuming that his ceiling was what he did as a rookie last year, as a rookie tight end. Like, do you think that's just going to go down?
No, it's not going to go down. The offense is going to be as good, if not better. And another thing to look at, if you look at Dynasty ADP from 5-6 years ago, and you're like, okay, who maintained their value over 3, 4, 5-year periods? When you're looking positionally at the tight ends and quarterbacks, so the two, when you drafted those guys in the 1st, 2nd, 3rd round Dynasty startups in 2017, 2018, looking at them now, they maintain their value better than wide receivers and better than running backs.
Yeah. And I mean, look at Kyle Pitts. He hasn't done much at all since his rookie season, and he still has a really, really good insulated
value. How old is Sam Laporta? He's 20.
I think he's 22.
The dude's going to be relevant for 12 years.
He's 23. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
12.
Yeah. And Brees Hall is going to be in this tier as well. Don't get mad at us because he's at the bottom of this tier. It's the same tier. The same tier. Pick whoever you want. If you want to put Brees at the top of this, I can't argue with it because you're getting a pretty good price with Brees at the very end of the 2nd round, which is where he goes sometimes. Brees Hall literally came off his ACL injury last year and decided to be the running back 2. In fantasy. That's ridiculous. Look, I expected him to have a good bounce back and to have a productive bounce back. I didn't expect it to be that good. I mean, that was ridiculous. And his price is absolutely merited here in the C tier. Drake London, this is kind of a bit of a shot called. We are assuming, I think, fairly assuming that Drake London is going to be hyper productive this year. Is it not fair to assume that a wide receiver playing with Kirk Cousins is going to be hyper productive and get a significant amount of volume and targets?
Not to mention a wide receiver that analytically over his first 2 years has been pretty good
super
in
efficient.
a terrible situation.
Yeah. It's very similar to Garrett Wilson.
Like Drake London has all of the signs you see before a wide receiver like breaks out and goes crazy. From a route running standpoint, from an efficiency standpoint, I don't think it's bold. Like, I mean, think people are like thinking, okay, yeah, they got Kirk, so now the DD guys think that London's just going to naturally be this. Yeah, we do actually. That's exactly what we think.
Yeah, don't. And even if you have questions about the coaching situation in the front office or whatever, like nothing's stopping a quarterback like Kirk Cousins from getting the ball to his playmakers. He's always done that since he's been in the league, and no one is going to keep him from throwing the ball to Drake London consistently. No. It's just going to happen, and he's going to be. I mean, I'm betting on a top 12 producing year for Drake London. I'd be disappointed if it was anything less.
Yeah, that's the expectations I have as well. The D tier here is pretty small because when you're looking at Chris Olave and Rome Odunze both,
there's a big teardrop after this.
Yeah, because you're not taking these guys over the guys in the C tier, but the guys in the F tier, you'll see we're not taking any of those guys over Olave or Odunze. So Chris Olave first. Chris Olave is the wide receiver one in his offense. Granted, it's still a terrible offense. With these third-year wide receivers, Garrett Wilson and Drake London, you see their situation has gotten better to the point where they have been able to elevate themselves. Also, from a production standpoint, you've seen guys like Garrett Wilson prove it. Now, with Olave has been fairly productive given the situation in his first 2 years in the NFL, and we acknowledge that. However, the situation in New Orleans is not one that I'm looking at and saying, I think Chris Olave is a lock for being a top 8, top 10 wide receiver this year from a fantasy perspective. I still expect Chris Olave to be a wide receiver 2 in fantasy. So with that, I think you're taking the guys in the C tier, Wilson, Neighbors, London, all guys that have wide receiver 1 upside this year over Chris Olave. Now, Chris Olave, could his situation get better next year? It can and it probably will. Yes, but at the same time, what we're looking at this in ranking like is we're not taking him over any of the guys in the tier above him, so he's going to stay down in this tier with Rome Odunze, essentially. But
and whether you like it or not, like at the end of the day, the value of players, even in Dynasty, is very, very dependent on their production. And if we're assuming that Olave is going to be a wide receiver 2 from a production standpoint, then this is just where his price is. I mean, at the end of the day, there are only 12 wide receiver 1s. And generally, you've got about half of those spots being taken by proven veteran assets that are not cornerstone assets. Yeah. So there's really, 6, maybe 7, 8 tops or spots or opportunities for your cornerstone assets to produce at a wide receiver 1 level. And there's just, Olave is not one of those guys.
No, he's not. And Rome Odunze is probably not either. I think you make the case more for Rome Odunze to be up in this tier rather than be down like Olave, because Rome Odunze is a guy that going to the Bears, first of all, a lot of people looked at the landing spot and assumed it was a bad landing spot, which I think if you dig deep, you realize that him playing with Caleb Williams, coming into the league with Caleb Williams, not a bad landing spot at all. When you're talking about immediate production from Rome Odunze, he's probably not the wide receiver 1 this year. Like, it's probably Keenan Allen this year, and then maybe it's Rome and DJ Moore or 2A, 2B. But I think by the time next year or the year after rolls around, Rome Odunze is a wide receiver 1 for the Bears. I think the chemistry that him and Caleb Williams will develop will be very, very strong.
That's what we like the most. The connection between a rookie quarterback and a rookie wide receiver is very, very underrated when you're talking about like unexpected production. I mean, this has been a trend that we've seen. We should do a research video on this.
Yeah, we honestly should.
Yeah, that would be a lot of fun to do.
Yeah. So between that and the fact that Keenan Allen is pretty much on a 1-year deal, DJ Moore, I think Rome Odunze is more talented and a better wide receiver than DJ Moore. So I think that Rome Odunze, if it came down to those two guys being the wide receivers in Chicago, I think Rome Odunze in 2 years is the wide receiver 1. So with that, I like the landing spot, I like the situation, and I love Rome Odunze. And I'm taking him equivalent to Chris Olave, and I'm taking him in this tier of guys when you're talking about cornerstone rankings. So
yeah, for sure. And then in the F tier here at the top, we're going to have Zay Flowers. He is the wide receiver 1 in Baltimore, and there was nothing that they did in the draft this year that really would make us think or question otherwise. This was a big concern that we had pre-draft. We were like, there's honestly a chance that Baltimore could go into this draft and take another wide receiver. And if they do, then Flowers, his price is going to be compromised, and he may fall just due to the nature of the Dynasty community usually reacting to draft picks. Nothing happened to hurt Zay Flowers. His opportunity has not been tainted in any way. Does he have a limited ceiling in that offense? Potentially, I would argue yes, but there should be nothing about his price that changes, which is why he's in this F tier. Trey McBride is also going to be here as well. I don't know if he's. You can check for me. Has Trey McBride taken a value hit because of the Marvin Harrison Jr. pick?
I don't think
if he has. There's no reason for him to. I think he still deserves to be the tight end 2 or 3 in this landscape right now. Like he hasn't lost any value. He's maintained. That's good. Maintained. That's good to see. Look, I think Marvin Harrison Jr. going into that offense, injecting an elite alpha wide receiver 1 in that offense is really going to help Trey McBride's production. And honestly, might draw some attention away from him in the red zone specifically. Like his touchdown production could really take a big jump up this year as well. I'm super excited, super optimistic to see what he does. Absolutely deserving of being here. Devon Achane is a guy who has taken a value dip recently, according to the market, and some of it has been merited because of the Jalen Wright pick in the early 4th round, who debatably kind of fell. I mean, he went in the early 4th round. He could have gone day 2 potentially. He goes to a landing spot where Mike McDaniel loves using those speedy running backs in different situations, and he likes his committee backfields. Maybe Jalen Wright is set to replace Raheem Mostert and the rest of the guys that they have in there, not named Devon Achane. But at the end of the day, Achane when he was healthy and Achane when he was playing was putting up 40 or 50 points. Like it was ridiculous. And there is a world where we start considering Devon Achane as a buy, which I never, ever, ever thought that I would be sitting here and saying this. And I have not officially said it yet. I'm just suggesting it being a possibility over the course of the summer if he starts to continue to decrease in value. But look, Achane, there's nothing that's happened to him where I'm like, yeah, he should lose value. He still belongs here. No. And Dalton Kincaid at the end of this tier, the Keon Coleman pick just made me all the more excited for Dalton Kincaid's opportunity and his role in this offense this year.
Yeah.
It's not because we dislike Keon Coleman or think that he's horrible and not going to do anything this year. Honestly, the volume opportunity there for Coleman really suggests that he could produce a lot higher than we initially expected going into the NFL draft for sure. He's playing with Josh Allen. But Dalton Kincaid is the experienced guy there now. He's the experienced guy.
Not only that,
he's very talented.
He's the closest thing they had to a slot wide receiver there.
Exactly.
And so he's going. I mean, a lot of people think Keon Coleman's replacing Gabe Davis, not Stephon Diggs. And I mean, you could make that argument, but even from just a prospect advancement, like I mean, he's not super polished yet. But
yeah, and when you're looking at a team that's potentially transitioning to primarily 12 personnel, like Kincaid is that receiving tight end option, and he is the guy that you want to see really flourish in that offense, and that's what I'm expecting.
Yeah, you can get all of these Cornerstone assets put in order as we rank them on your team blueprint when you get a team blueprint at flockfantasy.com/domain. When you use code domain, sign up for the Mother Flocker tier, you get one of these good looking, beautiful team blueprints, which now, as we are now past the rookie draft, it's important to nail this summer. The offseason and the time between now and the beginning of the season is when you're starting to make the most crucial trades for your dynasty team in terms of setting your team up for what is going to be at the beginning of the season, and then eventually morphing it as you go through the season and kind of seeing how your team plays out. This is an important time. So we'd like to help you get a team blueprint, get all of our rookie guides, get all of our articles, get one-on-one advice with Nathan and I, and more, and also get a chance to be in the $250 league, the Platinum League, flockfantasy.com/domain. Use code domain, choose Mother Flocker when you sign up, and you'll get in our tier. But moving on to the next tier here, we're going to start with Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers, look, I mean, Brock Bowers is the closest thing that Vegas has to a slot. The difference between him and Kincaid is Kincaid has Josh Allen and Brock Bowers has Gardner Minshew, which is a pretty big difference. That being said, we were very reactive to the landing spot of Brock Bowers right after the draft.
It's
and we've
warmed
settled
on me a little bit.
Well, and
it's become less cool.
And that's what happens. A lot of people, I saw a tweet this morning and it was like, Brock Bowers' landing spot is fine. Everybody should chill, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, that's real convenient. You saying that 2 weeks after the draft, like real easy to say that now. I mean, I'm sure people have really settled in on his landing spot. And really what we should do, of course, is keep our head above the waves. But with Brock Bowers, don't forget, he is essentially a big slot. He's going to be used as a big slot. There is, and
not a tight end.
And because of that, when you want to look at Malik Neighbors and say he could produce this year, using the same principles, Brock Bowers could produce this year. I mean, Brock Bowers, again, is probably going to maintain his value given that he's a rookie tight end. Usually we're pretty patient with tight ends in their development in the NFL.
Bowers.
I mean, Bowers.
I'm not going to be patient with his production. I want to see it.
Really?
I want to see it this year.
So if he didn't produce this year, you're out?
I'm not out, but I mean, at this price and where we're taking him, that means that I'm expecting him to be decently productive.
I would say that if he doesn't produce this year, I would want the situation to get better, and then I'd want to see him produce in the first 3 years. I still think that with any tight end. I think Bowers is going to, though, so I'm not super worried about it. Jordan Addison's in this tier as well. We recently did a sells video and said, yeah, Jordan Addison, you could be moving off of him and getting somebody better at that price. That being said, he's ranked fairly conservatively in these tiers. He is still the wide receiver 2 in a Vikings offense that is very, very well run, but also a Vikings offense that just got a new quarterback. We have no idea how it's going to look. No idea. So Jordan Addison, while the future is bright, while his situation did technically get better going from Sam Darnold to JJ McCarthy, you still have a net loss in terms of situational evaluation going from Kirk Cousins to JJ McCarthy. So you have to keep that in mind as well. Jaden Reed's in this tier for us. I mean, you know that we're high on Jaden Reed, and we think that Jaden Reed, I would take him equivalent to Jordan Addison, Tank Dell, Rashee Rice, which is on a hot take now. But with Jaden Reed's wide receiver 1 in his offense. I mean, you can't say that about Jordan Addison. You can't necessarily say that about Tank Dell. Right? So with Jaden Reed and what he was able to do in his rookie year, obviously you're looking at the touchdowns and saying, okay, that's a volatile statistic. That's absolutely the truth. But we have him ranked conservatively because honestly ranking him based on the fact that he's going into his second year and based on the fact that he produced the way he did in his rookie year, we'd rank him higher than this. But we are accounting for some of the volatility that could come along with his stats and also just getting settled in that wide receiver room with Christian Watson, with Dontavian Wicks, with Luke Musgrave, guys like that. So we like Reed at price, though. Tank Dell is here as well. And with Tank Dell, last year when he was on the field, like the dude was producing as a wide receiver 1 as a rookie. And we talk about the chemistry between rookie quarterbacks and rookie wide receivers who come in the NFL. This was a really good example of this. They hit it off right away. Tank Dell, smaller guy, not Power 5 school, and coming in and just lighting it up, like making us look silly on fantasy domain, like throughout the entire season. Obviously, the injury is going to be coming off of that, and so you have to keep that in mind. But that being said, Tank Dell at price, he's a pretty good value, honestly. Kyle Pitts, same thing. He's a tight end. He's not necessarily used like a slot. He's so big that he's used downfield more often than not. But that being said, he's so good. He's so athletic, and he's so good at contested catch and things like that. I think Kirk Cousins will be better for him. You saw even Matt Ryan in his last year there was better for Kyle Pitts than what you saw in the last couple of years with guys like Desmond Ridder and Taylor Heineke and things like that. I think Kirk Cousins is a huge upgrade. We obviously have a history of Kirk Cousins using tight ends a lot. But with that being said, it's still, we got to see Pitts do it. And with Rashee Rice, he's dropped. We'd probably still had him in this tier anyways. But he's dropped in market value. He was our biggest buy in our latest buys video. So with Rashee Rice, he's still going to be very good in Kansas City. He's going to complement Xavier Worthy very well and Travis Kelce. That's a good receiving trio right there on what is the best team in the NFL for the last 2 years. So
yeah, for sure. And then this last tier here, we're going to have a huge chunk of guys. We're going to have Xavier Worthy, who is the field stretcher in Kansas City. Maybe more than just a field stretcher. We think potentially more than just a field stretcher and a very complimentary piece to Rashee Rice. He could end up being the one there. We don't really know for sure, but he went the first round, and there's a lot of team investment there. We're very optimistic to see what he does. Jonathan Brooks. We love Jonathan Brooks' landing spot. Going to Carolina, super optimistic about what he's going to be able to do there really right out the gate. Reports are that he's going to be ready for training camp. I don't think he's going to be on much of a snap count going straight into week 1 of his rookie season. I think they're ready to go. Jackson Smith and Jigba. We remain optimistic with him. It sucks that Lockett's back. It sucks that Geno seems to be, the option there for the foreseeable future, because they're probably going to be a pretty good team next year, and they're not going to be in a position to draft a quarterback anytime soon. I still believe in JSN as a slot wide receiver where he can get a lot of volume down the line. Brian Thomas Jr. gets a great landing spot to Jacksonville, tied to Trevor Lawrence. Tons of passing volume there. Gabe Davis ain't going to take away from that. Christian Kirk is only going to help Brian Thomas's opportunity. We think they're very complementary pieces as well, kind of like a Xavier Worthy and a Rashee Rice in Kansas City. Ladd McConkey will also have, towards the end of this tier, playing with Justin Herbert. He's the first option. Yeah, we like Quentin Johnson as a throw-in value that you can get because no one's even talking about him. Past Ladd, there's no one, which is why QJ gets some good opportunity. Ladd, though, at the end of the day, is the first option there. He is our number 1 guy with Justin Herbert. You got to respect that, even though they're probably going to be a run-first offense. And then, honestly, just because we didn't have room for another tier, we have James Cook, Kenneth Walker, and George Pickens at the end of this tier. There's honestly no scenario where I'm taking any one of these 3 guys over the guys in this tier that I've already listed. But honestly, to not be crapped on, we decided to put them on this video because there's an argument to have them in this tier, sure. Given the opportunity, given their situations, given George Pickens, amazing wide receiver 1 overall upside. That was sarcastic. I couldn't
No,
help
I
it.
heard it. Yeah.
But yeah, those are going to be guys that we're going to have in this tier. So,
You guys should crap on Nathan for that. How dare he insult George Pickens?
yeah, I know. Sorry.
You said Cook, James Cook, and it made me think of Bond, James Bond. And I thought it was kind of funny.
Cook.
We got
James
Cook, James Cook in this tier. All right, make sure you like the video and make sure you subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed the Cornerstone rankings. Also, like I mentioned, flockfantasy.com/domain. Use code domain, choose another flock tier. Send us a friend request. Send us a friend request today. We'll chat with you. We'll get to know you. Unless you do it while Nathan's in Scotland, and he probably won't get to know you, but I'll get to know you for sure, and then he will when he gets back. We also get a team blueprint. We'll be able to get your team a plan for the rest of the summer, and then going into the season, it's important to make sure we're taking advantage of this time where Dynasty players are a little bit more active right now with trading. We've seen our leagues be a little bit more active, so we need to take advantage of that. Flockfantasy.com/domain. Use code domain, choose Motherflocker. Appreciate you guys. We'll see you later.